BT viewers, the Colonel speaking to you live from the Grange for British Imperial YouTube Broadcasting. Today we've got another Gillie Potter record, Columbia 5067, Mr. Potter Visits Southend, parts 1 and 2. I'll turn over halfway through, if I remember. Here we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I've just returned from America. I don't know whether you've ever been to America. I went out first class and came back on an American boat. I know a great deal about America. My third wife was an American. The other two were no good either. And yet one always learns something from these Americans. There was an American on the boat who told me something I did not know before. Do you know that you and I, we human beings, are actually taller in the morning than we are at night? I didn't know that. I know I'm always short at the end of the week. And then there was the voyage. But I won't tell you about the voyage. I don't want to bring it all up again. In the middle of the night, the captain got me to climb to the top of the mast, and when I came down, the boat had gone. However, I cycled after it and caught it up, and the steward saw I wasn't well. He said, "Would you like anything?" I said, "Please, I'll have a glass of milk." He said, "Shall I put a stick in it?" I said, "What?" He said, "Shall I put a stick in it?" I said, "Whatever's that?" He said, "Oh, that's a sailor's expression. That means a drop of whiskey or a drop of brandy." I said, "Oh, in that case, put a tree in mine, and we'll get on with it." Well, I had a tree, but my brother who was with me had Epping Forest. When we returned, our friends looked us over and suggested a holiday. They said, "Why don't you go to the seaside?" I said, "No, thank you, I hate the sea. I loathe the sea. If I go anywhere at all, I want to go somewhere where you can't even see the sea." They said, "You should go to Southend." So I bought a hymn book to find where Southend was and went down by train. In the train, I asked a man what the time was. He said, "Why do you want to know the time?" I said, "Well, I've not got my watch with me, and I want to know how late the train is." He said, "Oh, on this line, you don't want a watch, you want an almanac." Well, we saw the New Year in, and we got down to Southend. When we got there, I recognized the place. Some years ago, my brother had a yacht that lay off Southend. Well, half of the day it lay off Southend, the other half of the day it lay on Southend. And in going on Southend to get it off Southend, I got in Southend. Then we went on what they call the seafront and watched them ploughing. There was some talk about going down to the sea itself, but the man who knew the way was ill. Then we went on to a place they call the pier. That's a long road going into the interior. I met a friend of mine leaving the pier. I said, "Hello, what have you been doing?" He said, "Well, if the fishmongers are still open, I've been fishing."
Right, on to the other side. I'm rather enjoying these. I'm rather glad we've had favourable comments. Here we go.
After leaving the pier, we went to the most fashionable restaurant in Southend. I'm sorry that I can't give you the name of the restaurant now, but I've left the spoon at home. But I remember that I had the best half-crown dinner for a guinea that I've ever had anywhere. The waitress said, "Will you have soup?" I said, "Please." She said, "Clear or muddy?" Then she said, "Will you have fish?" I said, "What?" She said, "Will you have fish? You can have fried fish or shell fish, which you prefer. And if you have fried fish, you must have chips. You can have them on a plate or in the evening news." I said, "Well, personally, I don't walk about when eating, but which is more satisfactory?" She said, "Well, the evening news won't hold vinegar." I said, "Oh, in that case, I think I ought to have shellfish." "What are your shellfish?" She said, "2 cocktails and a hatpin, threepence." I said, "Have you any sweets?" She said, "Yes." I said, "What?" She said, "Treacle pud." I said, "Is the pud good?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Good pud?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Good. How much is the pud per portion?" She said, "Small portion 4pence, large portion with medical attendance 8pence. Well, I hate the idea of going on the panel after meals, so I said, "I think I'll have my sweets in some other form. Have you any chocolates?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Whose?" She said, "Fuller's. Well, I don't mind his chocolate, but I can't stick his earth." I said, "How much is the chicken?" She said, 1 guinea. I said, "How much?" She said, 1 guinea. I said, "I don't want a poultry farm, you know." "How much is the bread?" She said, "The bread is free, we throw that in." I said, "How much is the gravy?" She said, "The gravy is free, we throw that in." I said, "You throw a lot of stuff in the course of the day, don't you?" So I had bread and gravy. Then the waiter came with the bill, £5.12. For a moment I thought he'd overlooked something. I said, "This is rather an alarming bill for the small quantity I've had. What is the 12 shillings for?" He said, that's for fruit. I said, I had no fruit. He said, no, but it was there if you wanted it. I said, will you fetch the manager, please? So they went out to find the manager in the restaurant to which he goes to have his meals, and when he was conscious, I spoke to him. I said, what is the meaning of this bill? For what exactly does the 12 shillings stand? He said, that's for fruit. I said, I had no fruit. He said, no, but it was there if you wanted it. I said, will you give me the bill, please? So I took the bill, took off £5, gave him 12 shillings. He said, why have you done this? Why have you taken off £5? I said, that was for kissing my wife. But he said, I didn't kiss your wife. I said, no, but she was there if you wanted it.
Do you know, viewers, that must be one of the oldest jokes I've ever heard. Usually told in relation to the cruet in seaside guest houses, which I suppose that sort of was, really. Thank you, viewers, and goodbye.